This is week 4 for me, and the message today at our engineering next steps for me is everything will be 200K. And I tested that yesterday with my wife, and she didn't get it, and I said 404, not found. She said, oh, it's a dad joke. So, but I thought it was pretty good. So I've been listening the last a little bit more than 3 weeks, but not much more. And as I said, today is the engineering next steps. Our view, what I think we need as an organization for product and for engineering for the next roughly 6 months, right? Before I dive into everything, does anybody know what this is? Has anybody ever seen this?
Is it the version?
No?
I think version makes something.
Looks like a strike drop.
Okay, so this is the Spaceship One. This was back in 2004, and it was the first manned private space flight. It won back then the X Prize for $10 million, and it was a super small team of just 20 people who basically built this thing and moved it to space, and then won the prize. Really small team, just 20 people. And for me, it's just an extraordinary tale of how you can make the impossible possible with small teams if you follow a few common patterns, right? I think what made this really successful was confident leadership, engineering skills, creative genius, and then simplicity. They stripped everything out there just to make it fly, right? I mean, back then it was just these huge budgets with NASA and so on, and they were someone in the desert, and I think it was founded by Paul Allen, Microsoft co-founder, and they were let's build a spaceship, right? So for me, it's really a great story. There's a really cool book about this, how to make a spaceship. If you're interested, it's a really great story of how small teams can achieve great things. I actually can confess I'm a pretty big space nerd myself, so I try to theme everything rockety and spacey today. And I think if we do ever fleet management for space, for commercial spacecrafts, I definitely will make that happen. So as I said, we had a great takeoff and we were on our way, but we still have a long way to go, right? Back there, 2020, and then, we're just done with phase 1. And then if we look really forward, what we need, examine where we're gonna go as we grow. The challenge that we have ahead of us, they're just gonna get bigger and bigger, right? So growing our team, right? That's definitely a challenge that we're gonna have. So this is our current team size, and by the end of the year, we'll have all of these blocks full here. We have grown all the team. It's nearly double the team. At the same time, we want to continue delivering value. We have a really kick-ass roadmap, delivering value, ship new features, really own the fleet market. The next thing is preparing for scale, and scale for me means multiple things. A is commercial growth targets. That means we have more customers, we have more transactions, we have more load in our systems, we need to scale for that. The second thing is organizational scale. If we have more team members, if we have more teams now in multiple places, we need to prepare our organization for that as well, so that we can work nicely together. And on top of that, we also want to innovate, right? All the things that we don't do today, looking at our data, making our data and use it for data insights, business intelligence, use machine learning, and really innovate on top of the digitalization of a spreadsheet, right? The big vision that we have, we haven't even really tapped into that yet. And so all of those things together, we have to tackle before we can actually have a landing party, right? It's really easy to have a takeoff party. Only a few teams make it to a landing party. That's really rare, and I think you have, where you are with Avrios in that position, you have an actual real chance to do that. I really see that, and that's also why I joined this, because I think you have a kick-ass product today that sells, a good team, and you can get there, right? The question is just how you execute. So I was thinking a little bit about where should be our areas of focus as an organization for engineering and for product. For me, they're really tangled closely together. And yeah, part of what I was listening to you guys, we had this big workshop a week ago, and everything of that, like I took in, like looked into where could be like the areas of focus that combine also with like a business focus, like when I talk with Andreas, when I talk to Richard and so on, like where do we really need to excel the next 6 months, like to be in a good position, right? And so I came up with 3 themes here. One for me is evolution for growth. The next one is innovation and speed, and then hiring the right talent. Yeah. And we look in all of those 3 key areas and focus areas in detail in a second, right? But this is kind of like where I want to put the focus on for the next 6 months, right? There's a lot of ground that I'm going to cover today, so we're not going to go into every little detail. But today, I think just we create that framework, and then we can take it from there. There's also a ton of stuff that I'm not going to talk about today, and that's not going to be our focus for the next 6 months. That doesn't mean that it completely dropped. Doesn't mean I haven't heard it. Doesn't mean like we're not going to do it, but it's not going to be our focus for 6 months. Having focus is about knowing what you do, and it's about to know what you don't do. That's focus for me. All right, and then just to stress this here, this is our top priority right now. Because if we are not getting really, really good at hiring the right talent, we need a great team to build great products, right? Okay. So the first theme for me, the first focus area, I call it evolution for growth. And for me, it's really important because we need to start preparing for scale. As I said, there are 2 types of scale: organizational scale, having more teams, having more people, having data multiple places, distributed remote. How do we work together? And then the commercial scale, having more customers, they use our products more heavily, we see more transactions, general load on our systems, right? How do we scale with those? And I like that picture. It's like cells, and they're really the building blocks of our body, right? And I thought it was really fitting because if we think about microservices, like the architecture that we want to be in, I think about them as like a cell-based architecture, right? And if you think about cells, right, it would be kind of like not cool if like one cell fails and you just die, right? That single point of failure. And so the body does like an amazing thing, like how to separate these, decouple those. And so thinking really about like cell-based architectures helps me always like to think about like how I want to design large systems at scale. Remember that everything fails all the time. It's just a matter when. Everything fails all the time, and so if it does fail, we just want to be in a spot where our systems can recover, are resilient, we have a reduced blast radius, auto scalability of systems, self-healing, they scale up again, and so on and so on. So all of these good things, right? The mission statement I came up for evolution for growth is prepare for scale via microservices with a minimal blast radius and no ops. This is where we want to be, okay? And we're gonna unpack this and look into like what this actually like means and like the how and the what. And it's gonna be a wall of text, but bear with me. So we have three topics here, and then the what we're gonna do, okay? So preparing for scale, commercially, organizational. We're gonna start using AWS cloud services first. We will use managed services and no ops first. We'll adopt an inner source model within the organization. Improving our resilience and operational excellence, which is really the backbone of every application, right? And we need to get better at that. We will build with full ownership in teams. We'll build with DevOps mindset on teams. We'll build things that they have a reduced and a minimized blast radius. That means if one system goes down, another system should not go down. There's this great story I talk about, and it's Netflix, right? What do you think is the least favorite Netflix movie? Anybody? It's the error page. Nobody wants to see that. So everything is better than the error page. So if you can't get a customized algorithm in place to give you a recommendation what to show you anything, show you something, a static list, show you a movie so that you don't leave. It's better than the error page. And that's the thinking about like Netflix, where they came up with things like chaos engineering and so on to really reduce the blast radius of their systems, to minimize it, right? To, like, one system goes down, everything else still works, and you fix that, and most of the customers will not even notice, right? Like in Netflix, you could think that everything works, but the recommendations for crime shows is down. You just don't see that. You will probably never know that the system was down. You still have like plenty of good options. We'll have robust logging, monitoring, alerting. I think we really, as a backbone for our system, we need to get good at that, right? We need to have a world-class logging system in place, and then tap into monitoring and alerting, what we don't really do today, like to have operational excellence, right? And then the last part that I have here, we're going to add operational excellence as part of our engineering bonus. So these are the three topics of how we're going to do this, and those are the what we're going to do, okay? Let me just check my notes real quick that I didn't forget anything. No, I think I'm good. So what we see here, I'm gonna try to refine this as like some sort of an engineering principle, so that it looks and reads a little bit better, also something that we can publish. But this is basically the gist of it, okay? And then how we're gonna do this today, I have a little time access there today. We're gonna commit to go more into AWS, right? And then architecture-wise, I think for us, the next logical step is to add an Amazon API gateway as like an abstraction layer between all of our systems. The next thing that I'm thinking of is using Amazon Event Bridge as like a reliable pub-sub messaging system between microservices. And those come out of the box. These are great building blocks, right? The third thing I'm thinking of is obviously logging, monitoring, and alerting. I haven't made a decision quite yet. I used in the past New Relic. I knew you experienced with Datadog before. I used PagerDuty. We need to get together and find a good solution, right? But we have to get something that is battle proven and resilient in place, that is using best practices. And then like maybe a little bit out there, I want to look at how we scale databases, Amazon Aurora, Elasticache, and so on, just to really like move these, like remove those pieces that can like are really hard to like restore, like, you know, once something goes wrong, a spike is happening that can scale. I think after this we already have like a really good architecture in place where we can start like building like really good microservices on top of that. But this definitely we have to put in place first. Another thing, yeah, I'm good in time. Another thing I wanted just to tell is AWS. That is effectively AWS is Amazon's platform infrastructure team. They started out when they used Amazon.com. AWS was their platform team. They was like, oh, we're building like platform for our product teams, Amazon.com. And they got so good at that they said, hey, we can sell those. They abstracted really nicely and they sell these services. This is Amazon.com's platform infrastructure team, and this is what Amazon.com is using. And so, besides like a lot of other companies, right? Cloud market share 45%, and Azure is like 10, Ali Cloud is like 10, Google Cloud 4%. Like they're winning, right? And they're selling this because they're really, really good. They have the best engineers to do platform. And for me, it's like if it's good enough for Amazon.com, it should be really good enough for us. They have the best engineers just building an Amazon API gateway, like for years now. The whole team builds that, nothing else. The next theme I want to look at, the next focus area is innovation and speed. What allows us to move really, really fast? How can we innovate at speed? And so what I'm thinking is we want to start really using those standard building blocks for rapid development, using out of the box, off the shelf blocks like API gateway and so on, right? And other systems that are just like modern building blocks. And whenever I talk with like great companies with great teams, the best product teams ship really small changes rapidly and often all the time, right? You really have to make sure that you have that feedback loop as tight as possible. You want to ship it, you want to measure it, you want to learn from it, you want to like iterate on it. Every time like you delay that feedback loop, like you lose opportunity to learn. And so this is really important for us to like start to get really, really good in iterating fast, getting things out quickly and learning from them. And to do that, we need to empower and trust the people who do it. It's you engineers, right? You need to be able to ship those things all the time, whenever you're ready to ship those. And that, of course, means with great power comes great responsibility, right? And there's no golden bullet to this. There's no template of like, this is how we do this. This is, remember when we talked about like making pots, to get good at making pots, your first pot will not be good. And so we need to start making pots. Yeah, we need to start doing it, get really, really good at it, learn from it when something goes wrong, like maximize that learning, and then do it again, and then see where that leads us, right? And then at one point, like fast forward like 6 months, 1 year, we're gonna be really, really good in doing this. The other thing that falls under the theme for innovation at speed for me is we can only improve with the things that we can actually measure, right? Analytics helps us today to measure our users, our products, and our business, and it also unlocks the insights into our apps funnels and so on, our business metrics, yada yada yada, whether we have product market fit in a certain segment or a vertical, and then also we need to rethink how we start tracking everything and so on and so on. I know that you're doing some sort of tracking, but it's not unified, it's not everywhere, and not to the level of tracking that I think we should use it today to really drive those insights later. Get a little bit of water. Okay. And so the mission statement I have for this one is enable teams to focus on delivering value with confidence and speed. And this is important for me, enabling, empowering teams to really focus on delivering value and be able to measure that value and to be confident that what you deliver and what you ship is valuable. And you have the confidence that when you ship it, it's not gonna blow everything up. You don't wanna be that cell that goes wrong and you die. You wanna ship it with confidence, goes wrong, most of the systems will not notice, you roll back, not a big deal, right? And then we also wanna do it at speed. Yeah, we want to do it really fast, small things at speed and so on, and everything that we need to put in place to be able to do something like this. Also like feature flagging, dark launching and so on. We will explore those tools to make this happen, right? But this is where we want to be. This is our mission statement for innovation at speed. All right. So, how are we going to do this? We're going to spend less time on infrastructure development. Again, we will use standard building blocks for rapid development. I'll talk about this in a second again. We will have platform teams that can focus on infrastructure and on platform. For me, this is a great distinction between a product team and a platform team. A product team focuses on product value. A platform team focuses on platform. That is the platform that product teams stand on to get really fast at innovating at speed. Those very different teams with very different missions. And for platform teams, product teams are basically their customers, right? I often refer to this as a paved road that platform teams put out there for product teams to really drive fast. We're gonna have to use metrics to create alignment, accountability, and a sense of ownership in our systems. That means we have to ship our products with tracking. Add tracking to our definition of done. I don't want to ship a single feature in the future anymore if there's not like a bulletproof tracking on everything. If you might not need it today, but maybe we want to like change our product in the future. Maybe we want to pivot the direction. Maybe we need that tracking data, and it's painful to not have that for 6 months, 12 months, and so on. We have to first collect it before we can change it. So everything that we ship, also going back into stuff that's already out there, we need to add a really bulletproof tracking, plus the right abstraction layer on that, right? But we can talk about that in detail. we're also going to create a customer engagement score. I know some of you have already thought about something like this, but it's something that I think most every SaaS company has, and it's so important. A customer engagement score is basically a single score, let's say 1 to 10, and it's multiple actions that a customer is doing. And let's say you have a really engaged customer that logs in, downloads a report every day, clicks on this button, clicks on that button, and sends an email. And we say this is a really engaged customer, that's a score of 10. And then you have somebody that has a really low score, that's somebody that really logs in, really does anything of those tasks that we want to see them doing. And then you score that for every single customer. It's actions and the weight of those actions, and you score that. And then the beauty is, I can tell you of every customer what their engagement score is, but I can now also tell you what our engagement score is across our entire customer base. And so let's say it's 6.4 for all of our customers. Good, that will probably change very slowly. And you release a feature, and you release a feature, and we probably don't see anything. But the beauty of that is also for product is now we can slice and dice. We can see what's our customer engagement score for the German market versus the Swiss market. It's like one lower. Why is that? Oh, they don't like do the reports. Okay, then why don't they do the reports? And then so a product team would drive that funnel for a specific market, for a specific segment, to like see that we get that product market fit here, that we engage customers. At the same time, and this is something that when you like build this as a team and you ship that and you innovate on that, you will see that number actually go like moving like really fast. So the engagement score across our entire customer base is a slow moving number, but if you like slice and dice it, you can actually directly impact that and you will see it. At the same way, it's like a really good business metric for us to have for across our business. If the customer's engagement score drops, I want customer success to pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, why are you not using our product as you want? You will probably churn, and so on and so on. So it's a really important thing to have, and I want to work on that the next 6 months, that we have this in place, that we have a customer engagement score, and then all teams can use that and explore from there to see how we can use it. Empowering and trusting teams to ship small changes rapidly and often. I really mean that. Teams, individuals need to be empowered to ship the code they write to production. It doesn't scale any other way. We have to be in that place, and we will have a good automated continuous delivery pipeline, CI/CD, infrastructure as code. We will build all of those things that we are in a place to do that. We will learn to do small things quickly. This is, again, we have to start doing it. There is no book that I can give you to say, read this and tomorrow we start doing those things. We have to get together, the team, start doing those. We will learn to do simple things quickly and to unblock innovation. If it takes forever to test out an idea, we get in the way of innovation. I want to get out of the way so that you can innovate fast, and this we have to learn as a team. We'll also avoid complex one-size-fits-all processes. This is like what kills usually everything. Like that we think like we need to come up with like one process, that one universal process that catches like all of our use cases, and then therefore nothing moves forward. It's okay to have two different processes. Maybe we have one process for the old world, maybe start building like a really fast process for the new world and slowly change the old world. But we cannot wait and have until we have like a one-size-fits-all, and the bigger we get, the more different processes we're gonna have, and that's okay. That is really okay. Another thing, a special thing because of the Angular migration is, I think we have to really start separating our migrating part, the migration, and the actual refactoring. Like, it's going on for like a very long time right now, and I would really like to like split those two things just so to move fast, be in like one technology, and then start to refactor. Another part of the how is we're gonna have this as well as part of the engineering bonus, a time to value, which is basically how often can we ship and how often do we ship. Yeah? Now we come into my favorite slide. So this is traditional development, right? This is a Millennium Falcon toy. Okay, and in the old world, how would you like create a toy like this and you would ship it? You would design a prototype, you carved it from like a molding clay, and then you make the molds and you pour that plastic in and you make it all nice, and then you produce injection molded parts and the assembled parts, and you have like one big thing that looks really cool, right? And you can ship a finished toy, okay? And then when you want to change a thing, you basically have to start here all over again, right? And this is the process. This is a traditional development process. This is rapid development. You start with a big bag of blocks, some instructions, few hours, and then you have a finished toy. And if you want to change something, well, you can remove bricks and move them around and make it so that it fits, yeah? And this is the big difference between like a monolithic approach and a microservice approach using building blocks that are standardized. It's looking a little bit more weird on the edges, right? It's not as fine like as here, but that's also okay because we accept that as part of moving really fast. Because while we still iterate, innovate as a company, it's more important for us to be able to move fast pieces around than being really, really perfect on the detail level. Does that make sense? So again, we will use standard building blocks for rapid development, AWS cloud services, managed services, no ops services. And then yeah, if you compare those two, you have full custom design, you have versus building bricks assembly, you have month of work versus hours of work, custom components that are fragile and need to be debugged and integrated with versus standard reliable components that scale and are well understood and that interoperable, right? So once you understand like one of those bricks, this is the same brick, right? Like you can just replicate it. You don't have to like understand two different things here. You have a lot of detailed choices you need to make versus you gain speed because you have to adjust your requirements to fit the pattern of those building blocks. So you don't necessarily also in product management start with like the absolutely finest version, but you come up with like, hey, what can we build with those building blocks? Might look a little rough on the edges, but we're gonna get there. Once we know exactly that it drives our value of product market fit and so on, we start getting a little bit more fine-tuned, right? Custom pieces. That's the idea. But we start out with really bricks and building blocks until we know what we're gonna do. And then yeah, long decision cycles versus constraints that tend to reduce decisions cycles, right? And speed up those decisions. Like if this is what we only have to build with, well, that's what we're gonna do. All right, and now to the most important theme and key focus area for us, it's really hiring the right talent. We cannot win if we don't have a great big team and a winning team, right? And admittedly, I think we struggled with hiring recently a little bit, and I don't have to tell you that. But I think I also have like a really, really good idea and a plan in place how we can like get from where we are today to like hiring faster and like the talent that we want to hire. And the mission statement I came up for this is the following. We position ourselves to attract the right talent and to streamline the hiring process. There's actually a lot in there. Let's like look into details. I want to really start branding ourselves as a tech company, as a tech startup, right? The thing is that in our world where great engineers can basically work everywhere and we have this like big battle for talent with other companies, people do not apply with us, we apply with them. Like we have to position ourselves so that people want to work here, that we are different in other places, right? And so we need to start talking about our journey, our culture, publicly and transparently, our values and principles. You do so many cool things, the hackathon. We need to talk about stuff like this. We need to get that out. You do these cool off-site ski trips and whatnot. Like that's fantastic. But if you don't tell anybody, that's, you know, I need to give this somewhere out there. It needs to be publicized transparently. And then Bea can use this and talk with candidates on the phone, say, hey, look at this, we do like this cool thing, we do this cool thing. Here's our roadmap, right? Here's our vision. This is what this are going to be our challenges the next 6 months. This will differentiate us from other companies, and it's actually, the bar is not that high because not a lot of companies are doing that. And then the next thing is we will get involved with the community. I will spearhead that. I'm already talked with the user group in Berlin to get involved with them, the AWS user group. I will talk at those events and bring our story out there and see that we speak to the developer community there. I've heard a few of you are interested in joining me and like in speaking and so on. Then I really welcome that, right? Let's do that. Also gonna get involved with the AWS user group here in Zurich. I haven't spoken with them yet, but it's organized by Dach with the Germans, so like, I know those folks, and so it's not a hard thing for us to get involved into this, right? The next thing is, let's start having a dedicated engineering jobs page somewhere where we can, as like the first start, to talk about those things, right? Have a couple of like blog posts that resonate with people about our hackathons, about our values, about our culture, and where we're gonna head, and then talk about it from an engineering perspective, right? And a lot of companies are doing that today, and we should do the same. Something like avrios.com/engineering or whatever it is, but a dedicated landing page where we speak to the people in the language that we want to speak to them, right? And we own that page. Couple of other ideas on that area is probably like we could make our code challenge fun. Like today, it's a currency exchange service. What is it in Zurich, right? It's not making us stand out. It could be something that's fun, something that's playful, something that says Avrios, right? I think maybe in the future we can think about open source. We talked about it last week, right? I know that my previous org, they have now done a lot, and it's like just you have to start doing it, and then like years later you're gonna earn those fruits, right? And so on and so on. So I think there are a couple of like good ideas, and like we just have to start doing it. The next thing, growing our talent pool, right? Already announced it last week. We're going to open an office in Berlin. I think that will help us just generally like really widen the pool. But then as another thing to like make that pool even wider is we're gonna move our focus more to junior developers. Hire people that are not completely like in their senior career at this point, and we hire them and we grow them. At this point, everybody here is IC2 plus. It's super heavy on like the more mid-senior late side. We're ready to take on talent and develop them in-house, and you know, I think that's gonna be great. And so that also will increase our pool like dramatically, right? Next thing is like streamlining our hiring process. There are a lot of like things right now that we can do to really get fast on that. And like for instance, our take-home challenge. It takes on average, I guess, 8 hours to complete it, and for the really good people, it takes maybe 4. But we rarely see that. And it's 8 hours. Think about that. If you are a world-class engineer, you make 100,000 plus, right? You already have a job, you have family, you have kids, and then Avrios comes without having a story out there and says, hey, what about 8 hours of my time? So we're gonna reduce that. Still get the same learnings out of it, but we're gonna reduce that. How GitHub is doing it is instead of like starting with the full challenge, they have like a seeded, like bootstrap kind of repository for you where you fill in the blanks so that you get like speed on that. But I think it should be able like for an IC2 to finish a take-home challenge in 2 hours. So one night, 2 hours, I think that's something that's more reasonable to ask for. Again, with the same learnings for us. Then I want to have 3 face-to-face interviews. The first one, a shorter one, because the scope is reduced, 50 minutes, where we look into the coding, the take-home challenge, and that kind of stuff. The second face-to-face should be like a technical depth and breadth kind of like challenge, looking into how people think about scaling systems, and think about like processes and architecture. And then the third one is like an experience, depth and breadth, kind of like a culture fit experience and so on, and team culture and team fit. And so then I think we have like 3 face-to-face interviews and one take-home challenge, and we have a streamlined process. Like the goal really needs to be that we get candidates from when they get the code challenge to we putting them an offer in place of them. That really needs to be like fast tracked, right? We cannot wait for 4 weeks, for 5 weeks until like we move them through the process. And there's a lot that we can do. And I've seen it working in other places where it gets really, really fast, particularly if they're good. We don't want them to talk to 7 other companies. We will involve all engineers in the interviewing process. We need to do that right now with all that, IC2 plus, all of you are IC2 plus, so everybody is involved and all hands on deck. It's not gonna be mandatory. If you really hate doing this, I'm not gonna make you do it, but I want the most people that we can get on deck to get really good at interviewing. Always 2 people in there. We have to learn from each other. That's how we scale, right? And we will also measure our recruitment funnel. Every step along that, I want to know like where do people drop off, and how can we get better at that? It's the whole challenge of interviewing and like recruiting people is probably one of the biggest challenges a startup can have. This year we're gonna double the team. Next year we potentially gonna double the team again. Then we need to hire 50. We need to be really good at one point in doing this, and need to have a deep enough bench to really be able to do it, right? And I'll go there with you. We do workshops. It's not so that I just throw in a room and say now interview. We're gonna set up workshops. We're gonna get together. We're gonna grow and nurture all of you, and get you ready if you want to be part of this, right? And the last thing is then again part of the workshop. I think we have to slightly shift the culture on how we hire. Like if we look at candidates, if we like look at their profiles and like be really aligned as a team, then particularly if we have so many people that potentially interview, like what is it that we look for? What is it that we value? When is it a yes? When is it a no? When do we give it a try? And so on, right? What are really like those cornerstones of like interviewing and align and calibrate there as like a team? I think that's really gonna be important. And again, focus area, of course we're gonna have it part of our engineering bonus, right? Time to hire. And now the question is, so how are we gonna measure all of those, right? So what I'm thinking currently, this one here is part of our bonus for Q1. We're gonna have 4 metrics: time to hire, time to value, operational excellence, and operational excellence 2. Time to hire is obviously from the moment they get the challenge to be put in the offer out of there, and I think there's a ton that we can do to really make that time spent small. Having a better code challenge, having more people that can interview, having people that nag to get this like out there, and so on, right? The other thing is time to value. Deployments per day, that would be quarter, right? Divided by our full-time employees. That's our time to value. How often do we ship innovation? And same with operation excellence. It's like the same, but with bugs, right? Obviously, if we start shipping more, we don't want to like drop our operation excellence like completely. And so operation excellence is right now a combination out of bucks per day per FTEs and our uptime. And so I think those are like four metrics that we can measure pretty accurately already today with what we have in place. I think there's like enough in there for all of you to feel like you can contribute and can have an impact. Like if you don't want to impact time to hire, well, spend your time here on like making us really like fast in deploying stuff, right? And so as a team, I think we have a lot of like power to influence that. How we actually like how steep they're gonna be, that I haven't decided yet. What I first need to do is like to pull the baseline. What are these numbers looking like for January, Q4 and so on, right? And then we look into something with the current team as well that is like actually feasible, right? There's gonna be a bit of a stretch goal, but something feasible, right? We're not gonna go from time to high if it's today like 4 weeks to like 1 week. That's gonna be unrealistic, but we need to get better, right? And so at this point, these are the 4 metrics for the bonus, and then as I said, I'll pull those numbers and see that to make them more concrete, right? The other thing is, what I'm really puzzled with is, when I look around here, is like absolutely 0 dashboards. No visibility about anything that you do. My old CEO used to joke that everywhere is a dashboard. He was like, this is like so expensive, right? I want to get us those metrics on a dashboard somewhere for your team, right? In my old world, I was able to just walk to a team and I knew how they're doing, what they're working on, just by looking at their dashboard. Because every team had a dashboard about their OKRs, their KPIs, their metrics, right? That they were working on. So just by moving around, like think about it. I can also, when we have somebody here to interview and we have to stack dashboards, it's like, okay, this team is working on this. Okay, they're moving like that. Okay, and they're like really winning. It's an easy story to tell, and it also, I think Andy will gonna love that. Like it's just like walking around and seeing like how teams are doing. Like I certainly will like that, right? And so I think let's get some dashboards. Let's start with 1, get those metrics on there, and then see how we can even get more metrics in the future there to see customer engagement score and so on, right? What I talked before, just to see that we create this visibility and therefore also a sense of ownership and a sense of responsibility about what we're actually doing, right? And then so the last thing is how we're gonna create alignment, right? And drive that change. Like, so now I said all of those things, but how are we gonna do it, right? And like the short answer is just we start doing it by doing it, okay? But a little bit longer answer is we're gonna have people become champions for separate initiatives, and those champions will be empowered to drive change and to really make it happen. And this doesn't have to be a lead or a specific person. I'd rather have somebody who's really passionate about a thing and says, okay, I'm really passionate about like this topic. I want to be the champion of that. I want to drive this customer engagement score. I want 1 champion that then will be empowered to make it happen, right? It's also going to be really, really great. Like if you get something like this on your resume, like you like transform the business, being the champion of something like this and that, right? And particularly if you have the empowerment from your boss, like what's better than this? Entire product engineering team, we're gonna get together once a week until we are aligned. I know it's an expensive meeting. Nobody likes these big meetings, but we have to get together and start talking about all of these initiatives, start, one by one, and start tackling those. And then like get them out, fix them, get on to the next one. If something's not understood, have everybody in the room talk with each other, create shared understanding. It's hard that I just tell you this and you like know immediately everything I want from you. So we have to get together. We are still a super, super small team. I mean, this is like we have the luxury to go in a room and really rally. And let's do that, right? And then the next engineering high level we're gonna have in the summer. So this is the plan for the next 6 months. But then I wanna meet again in the summer in 6 months from now to look into like the big pieces. What do we need to change? Are they still our key focus areas? What went well, what didn't go well, and so on. Before we move too far ahead, let's check in big scale, zoomed out in 6 months as a team, yeah? At that time, I wouldn't mind product also to be part of that high level meeting, right? And then so we're nearly done. Where is it? So there's this really great quote from Elon Musk, and he says it in a way I feel kind of like, it's very Elon Muskish. Like, he says every person in your company is a vector, and your progress is determined by the sum of all of those vectors. Makes sense for us engineers, right? Like if you have all those vectors and you sum them up, and so what we're gonna do with those weekly meetups is like today, those are all of you, vectors, okay? And we go in different directions. And then if we meet every week, we're gonna start to refine this a little bit more, right? We're not gonna be perfect next week, we're not gonna be perfect in 2 weeks, but we slowly make sure that we all run in the same direction, that we know where we're going and we are aligned, right? And then ideally, in like 3 months or so, we all know where we're heading and as a team can walk in one direction as a unit and know what's going on. Remember the story about the spaceship one? You're actually on that spaceship, right? And this is like phase 2. And yeah, even if it sounds cheesy, but it is kind of, we're a fast-growing startup, and it's not easy, and it's a rocket ship, and it sometimes can feel like a rocket ship, but you're a great team, and together we can achieve great success. And just to reiterate, our 3 focus areas, right? Evolution for growth, innovation at speed, and hiring the right talent, priority. And then obviously expect everybody to help me implementing those in the next weeks and months, right? So that we get there as fast as possible. And then I also make sure to ask a few designers to help me putting those and our mission statements everywhere so that we don't forget those as a team, right? And of course, if there are any questions along the way, just ask me. Like, doors always open. Like, we need to create a shared understanding. I know that this was a lot of input from me to you now, and so definitely we have to start talking and then also get together every week as a team and like start like aligning those vectors. Okay, let's do that. Yeah. Okay. We have 2 more minutes.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
I mean, I pretty much agree with everything you said, and I think what you said makes sense, and it kind of reflects what we also discussed during the meeting last week. But obviously, to do all these things, we're going to need time, and we're pretty stretched as it is with the roadmap, where we promised customers features all the way till end of Q2.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to that?
So this is obviously like the what, especially 6 months, right? So we need to start somewhere, but we're also not going to do all of them tomorrow. I think we need to find some focus. I think the big initiatives should be driven, like particularly if you think about architecture, by a platform team. They shouldn't belong into like a product team. And I think we are also okay, and Robin, correct me, but we discussed that to slow down a little bit, potentially to be in a better spot like in the future, and to really then like scale and get faster like once we have those building blocks in place. And so yeah, it's obviously we have to find the right balance for that, but I'll make sure to fight those fights then for you with everybody to get us the time.
Get my hands free.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I agree. I think it's, is it going to be easy to find time to do all these things and ship the roadmap? I don't think it will be, but I'm really confident that we'll find a solution.
Yeah.
We'll find a way to make it work.
Yeah. Okay, then no more questions. Then like, let's wrap it up here and then let's get cracking. And then I'll put a meeting for us all on the calendar for this first meeting. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.